Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below this video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, maybe not this one, which will get explained shortly, then simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, I am joined by Ranty Flat Earth, Karen B, Issa Mahalski, and Anthony Riley on Anthony Riley's live stream. So, how the devil are you all?
We're all good.
Feedback. Oh no, we're good.
Live or something?
What happened?
Simulcast.
I started
Nathan's
the
gone
multicast,
live.
so I've got to run out at some point today, and I don't know when the phone call will come, so I hadn't actually planned to do a debate, but it's very handy that I can just end this stream at any time without it affecting anybody on the call. I can just go. But for my audience, at least they're involved in this conversation.
Well, Theo, let's start this one off on Oakley. I was going to bring up, I've been questioned about this 600 nautical miles is flat, and if anyone has issues with that, look up, there's a YouTube called Sailor's Tube, and it's run by a gentleman, Captain Ali Nabi Rizvi. And he makes lectures for maritime education and training. And it's useful for merchant Navy officers appearing in various competency examinations. And so that's the gentleman. He's a captain, and he admits that 600 nautical miles is treated as flat.
What's his name again?
Captain Ali, or A-L-E-Y, Nabi, N-A-B-I, Rizvi, R-I-Z-V-I. And it shows, there's things on YouTube, and this is where it talks about plain sailing navigation treating 600 nautical miles as flat, and plain surveying on land treats 300 miles as flat. So these are professionals. These are professional studies, the way that the professionals use it. And I'm just going to reiterate my claim that the whole argument about obstruction made by the ballers is a mountain that they've made out of a molehill, and it's become a holy mountain with people coming down with tablets every day like Moses, because they don't look to the professionals for the fact that they treat 600 nautical miles as flat and 300 land miles as flat when the professionals do their work. This is a wrap, this is over. This is what the professionals say. But I also wanted to reiterate the idea that, look, Space Force is for the people who've learned Kerbal over the last couple of years that need a job. And we have to be responsible in the sense that, hey, some people need that shit. Pardon me.
Yeah, some people need it, but that's where the ballers come into, and that's why, like at the start of this debate, when we was talking to that globling that came in, he was acting so rumpusy. He was literally from the same school of rumpus. It was like he was putting his fingers in his ears and chanting and screaming and saying, "I'm not listening, la 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 la, not listening, not listening." And this went on for a good hour, I would say, Anthony, till he ran off when he was faced with evidence that he couldn't refute, basically.
Well, he did say to me that he had 90 minutes before he had to go for work, so he didn't run off in that context. But he also, what he did do is refuse to accept evidence of his model because it came from me. And I was like, so what are you doing here then? You can't have it just because you don't know something, that it kills the point, because that is my point, right? Your model has issues with it, and I want you to go and look into the issues. But he wouldn't even accept the issue that I was trying to present. And I just got to the point where I just thought, this is useless.
What was his name again?
His name is Darrell E. Berry Jr.
Did you say he came from the Horry Sheet Show?
He's friends with Horry Sheet Show, yeah.
Right. If anybody knows him and knows anything about him, kindly spread the word a little bit so we know who we're dealing with, because he acted like a petulant child.
Well, he just refuses to accept evidence that's not come from his research, and then refuses to accept evidence of where there is a hole in his model because it come from me. And I was like, you can't really do that, mate. These are the points that we're having the debate over.
It's a good job he wasn't on Nathan's.
I was going to get to the seismology point with him, and I never got there. But he was going on about, doesn't matter. I don't want to go back over it now.
All you got to do is just make it clear. Be like, well, I love the question. Just like, hey, so we can agree that I know more about this subject than you do.
Well, I know more about what I'm told.
First, that's the first concession. It's like, anytime a baller comes in raging, the first question to ask is, hey, what's the circumference of the Earth? And 9 times out of 10, they don't know. And then you have to say, okay, well, you would admit that I know more about this subject than you, and you might be putting your foot in your mouth by continuing to speak, right?
Yeah. I did get some concessions off him, though.
Well, he didn't have much for you. I mean, but again, it's like, you go down to your local grocery store and ask somebody about any of this stuff. Like, ballers have to correct their own ranks before they start coming in. Like, there's so many ball earthers out there that don't know anything about why or what they believe. Not that we should impose the conversation on them, but that once we come to the basic facts of like, hey, if I know more about a subject than you do, you'd have to agree that you might want to just look into what you're talking about and create an amicable way to do it. But he wouldn't let you speak, and I heard him talking over you. And it's just, I look at that comes down to bad parenting. Like, people that don't have manners or how to have a conversation, like that's a family issue. And that's why there's governments, because, governments aren't your mom and dad. They don't care about you. They just don't care.
I think it was a tactic of debate that he was deliberately trying to not let me make my points because he didn't want to go down a particular route on any occasion because
it's still bad parenting, because you should be a better debater and your parents should have raised you better.
Yeah.
I have to admit, though, when you pulled up Wikipedia, I cringed.
That's what most of them on their model do, though. That's what their credible citation source is.
Yes, I know, but I mean, as soon as you did it, I cringed. So when he pulled you up and said that you can't use Wikipedia, I have to agree with him on that. That's why I sent you the link in the side chat, but he never actually saw it. It was a proper reference as opposed to just using the wiki.
I know, but the problem with knowing in advance where he is helpful, but I didn't know where he was at anyway in the conversation, so it's not easy to preempt where I think he's at, because if I get the judgment call wrong and then he uses that against me, then, I mean, most people do use Wikipedia in their model, in their side of the discussion, but usually I use it to make the point rather than to prove it's true.
Well, can't you just make some folders up and name them for different things? So one could be called Coriolis, and you could have all your links and everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it'd just be so much easier. But you'd be able to just within 30 seconds have something ready to go. Because like QE, he's literally ready to go at any minute. Nathan will say, "Can you bring up this or can you bring up that?" And he has it to hand.
Yeah. Well, I am able to respond to anything that he wants because I do have my own encyclopedia of stuff that I use regularly. But he'd already established that he wasn't going to accept anything from me anyway. So then it's kind of like, well, he's not going to accept anything at all.
And yet he wants to debate you again in a week, doesn't he?
He does, but I'm not sure. If he's not going to accept any evidence against his views that he hasn't researched himself, then there's no point in actually talking to him, because he's nothing that I present he's going to accept.
Yeah, that's why you got to come to that line of questioning really the line of questioning is the way to do it, man. Like that, just the notion of did you ask him if he knew the circumference of the Earth?
No, but I did
Why
ask
not?
him
Hold on, no, why not?
because I asked him, did he know what the Curie temperature was, and he didn't.
Oh, that's
He-
not. No, well, I'm talking like right, but that's too
Start with
in
the
depth.
basics.
It's too in depth. It's like go right. It's like the first question any flat earther should ask some vitriolic baller is, "Do you know the circumference of the Earth?" And I'm saying at least 7 times out of 10 they're not going to know it. And then from right there, just say, "Hey, wouldn't it appear that I know more about this subject than you do?" And that's it. It's like, because they immediately remove themselves from the conversation. They intellectually have isolated themselves from the conversation.
Is Karen still in?
Yep.
I am.
All right, okay. Karen B's still in the chat, everybody. Just letting people know on Nathan's that you're in the chat because you haven't said much.
Oh, because I'm Nathan streaming now?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
sorry.
simulcasting.
Yes,
I'm in
correct.
Riley's chat.
Yeah, that's fine. We're being played on both channels.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't make any
So-
difference as Karen knew it was broadcast anyway, so there's no point in me announcing it because I don't, not that I'm being rude, but I don't need permission or anything. It's just,
Oh
happy
no,
days.
I don't care either way.
Sure, sure.
We're all
We
none
were
of us
talking about
snowflakes on
the-
flat Earth.
We were talking about the gyros, weren't we? If you remember.
Yeah, I just want to, I just want Chris to come on Nathan's channel at some point and tell us the reasons why he's left flat Earth and be very specific, so that we can and show the evidence that supports his position, so that we can go to that very narrow point and ask FE Core to explain the counter argument for it, present the evidence to support the counter argument, and see whether Mr. Monkey is in fact correct or is there something else there. I think it's the most interesting topic that we've had in flat Earth for a while, and if it's serious enough for him to fall out with FE Core, then that makes it credible, right? There's something in it.
Right, and that's where I would come back and just again, it's like, is the whole mountain of evidence broken because of one gyroscope issue? And then, that's why I bring up this, these figures of the 300 miles is flat in plane surveying, 600 nautical miles is flat in sailing, because these are things that nullify all of these obstruction arguments. And when you've nullified all the obstruction arguments, okay, aside from drift on a frickin' gyroscope, is it still there's just so many other factors aside from a gyroscope that if that's the one issue that does it, it's like when people bring up the Cavendish, it's like, what else? Or what other experiment is there on this observable molecular level that we experience that shows any kind of gravitation? And there isn't one. They only have the Cavendish experiment, and then everything else is either going to get into macro space travel or micro, molecules or electrons and stuff like that. It's like, you wind up in these weird little worlds. So it's like, if you don't have enough evidence to really help out your arguments, then they're inevitably going to fall flat. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But it's tough when one piece of evidence is going to bring someone all the way back. But then is all the other evidence that they have informed? Really, I'm adamant on this idea of plane surveying treats 300 miles as flat on land. What are we talking about when we're talking obstruction or, atmospheric conditions or any of that stuff, when we know that the professionals treat 300 miles as flat? You're not going to see curvature.
Can I answer that?
3 to 4 miles.
We're talking about Airy's diffraction when they're talking about obstruction, formerly known as curvature. That's what they're actually detailing. Airy's diffraction, along with the forced effect of perspective potentially obscuring your view at the midpoint as the angle of view narrows towards the distance. So if you have waves that intersect the midpoint, you will have obstruction from those waves, even if they are shorter than you are and your camera height, because they are raising to the horizon. And if they intersect the midpoint, they will obscure your view of things from the bottom up. Same with Airy's diffraction. It will obscure things from the bottom up by the nature of the angle, your viewing angle narrowing to nothing. And at that point, you get Airy's diffraction. It's nice and demonstrable. That's an aside, because in terms of these gyroscopes, are you all aware of the fallacy that this is in terms of both globe and flat Earth?
What do you mean by the like the fact that those things are happening either or?
No, it's a fallacy. So it's called an affirming the consequent. So it's a formal logical fallacy would be as follows: if I eat 10 hamburgers, I am full. I am full, therefore I've eaten 10 hamburgers. Even if I'm drunk and have had 10 beers and starving hungry for a kebab, But that's a formal logical fallacy. So I won't do it just for Anthony's sake. If R, which would be no, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to listen to Anthony. If P, I am full. Or no, if I eat 10 hamburgers, let's get it right. It's Anthony telling me to change the letters that's thrown me. So if I eat 10 hamburgers, that's P. I am full is Q, right? So Q, I am full, therefore P, I've eaten 10 hamburgers, doesn't necessarily follow the other. And in terms of the gyroscope, to simplify it as much as I possibly can, just so it's as close to that example as possible, if drift, sphere Earth, yeah? Sphere Earth because drift. Or you can do it the other way around. If sphere Earth, drift, therefore sphere Earth. It's a formal logical fallacy to say that. And equally, to say if drift, ether turn because drift, or if ether turn, drift, therefore ether turn. It's not a logical deduction that one follows the other, because it could be multiple different things. And when you mentioned Cavendish and said the word experiment, my skin crawls. It's not an experiment. An experiment's a very specific thing. It's the expression of a hypothesis, and a hypothesis is a scientific prediction. So when you express your prediction to see if it's right or not, that's an experiment. And Cavendish is not that. It's not got a viable scientific hypothesis. It doesn't have a scientific prediction. For a start, it's the actual observation is part of the experimental setup, as opposed to an observed phenomenon being inquired into with a formulated scientific hypothesis. So Cavendish isn't an experiment. It definitely is not qualified to be called that. And when people say, oh, well, this is our experiment, it's like, no, this is just pseudoscience. It's a circus sideshow. So that bugs me. But as much as I know Anthony's interested and said there's credibility because Chris Monk has said if gyro drift, then Earth turn, that doesn't mean that doesn't make it any less fallacious. I hate to say it, I like Chris too, but ultimately speaking, he's just employing a formal logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, therefore P. If we see a 15-degree turn in a gyroscope, then the Earth must be turning. The Earth is turning because we see a 15-degree turn in a fibre optic gyro, and it's just a logically fallacious conclusion to draw on both sides of the argument, flat Earth and globe. Anyway, that's my piece.
Yeah, and I think in light of in contrast to all the other weight and evidence that there is out there, it's like, and never mind that it's a logical, was it the term you used? Logical fallacy, or what's the correct term you use? But it's like that I just don't see how one issue could make enough to turn somebody away from thinking about this. What I could see, though, is there being enough pressure from some way that someone might not want to talk publicly about it. And that's where the respect has to be given to anyone who does step up out here, is that anyone can make their, can go and come and go as they choose. Because I don't think that one person is going to make or break any of this subject matter, because it's so far-reaching and so it can be so in depth that I just don't see, one person making or breaking a concept like this. But, I like Mr. Monk. I'd love to hear what he has to say. But if he doesn't show and he doesn't want to whatever, I'd hope that everyone gives him the respect he's due, as someone who's come out here and helped wage the arguments for flat Earth. You know what I mean? As much as he's done. So bless him, brother. Hope he's all right. But that's why I say it's like, that still doesn't change the fact that plane surveying through 300 miles is flat. 600 nautical miles. That's flat.
Do you have a citation for that?
That's what I did. Yeah, I did. Well, which one? Because the one I just gave with the for the ocean, there's the Captain Ali Nabi Rizvi on this YouTube channel, Sailor's Tube, and then what do you call it? You have forgive me, I'll find it. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this. The citation for the planes for the navigation. Where is it? But or not the navigation, but the plane surveying. There was a manual that I had come across. I posted it a couple other places, but yeah, if you look up plane surveying, they treat 600 or 300 miles as flat on land. Let's see here. Let's see what I can muster up. Yeah, forgive me, because yeah, I'll have to. Let me see if I'll try to find. I used to have the link in one of my other Discords, but I think I deleted it. Hold on. Let's see here.
All right, I'm going to go and let these dogs out for a quick wee. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Cool. Damn.
So what's the score with Arwen at the moment then? He's just called me and he was like, "Can you add me?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, this isn't my call."
I don't know. I've not
Right
spoken
when
to
Anthony walks away.
him.
Yeah. Well, mainly because Ranty's got a bit of what's the word, previous. So I didn't know if he knew.
Oh. No, that's long gone.
You hope.
You know, I only stay upset with people for a few hours, and that's it. It's over with then. I don't hold grudges.
Fair enough. Well, when Anthony gets back, I'll ask him, see what he says.
Yeah, and damn, where is this?
Has it killed the conversation, Anthony leaving?
No.
No,
Now,
we're
forgive
waiting
me,
for
I'm-
Issa to find something.
Yeah, I was. Let's see. Yeah, forgive me because I'm having. It's like it's so weird too. It's like I remember. Is the Earth Curve Calculator.com still around?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
There's a few Earth curve calculators I know that still are up.
Yeah, but there was like I've seen like a couple come and go. I feel like almost like as we were bringing them up and raising the issues, like okay,
I think
let's see.
the GitHub one is still up. I like that one. I don't like using Metabunk, MetaBS.
I'm so disappointed. Forgive me. I had this link. I think I have it on a hard drive somewhere. Forgive me. See, yeah, because like I noticed that there's so many like anti-flat Earth stuff that just pops up in front of everything that used to be there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like if you search flat Earth stuff on YouTube, you used to get like all the pro flat Earth stuff first in the list, and now it's like the first page is all flat Earth debunking videos, and then you start getting into the stuff that you were looking for.
Okay, I got the link right here. It's the Oneida Bosis, or it's the here, I'll put a link in the chat. Well, let me verify it. This is the because yeah, they treat 300 square miles as flat, but I want to find the where I cited this. But yeah, it's on the. It's this. This is actually for looking for a job, I think, as a surveyor. So it's the overview of land measurements and introduction to surveying. It's Oneida-Boses, BOCES.org. I'll have to find the exact whatever, but I'll put the link here in chat.
Sure. So, what's the curve calcs on a 300 mile? What should the curve be on that?
Well, that's the thing is they don't measure for curvature. Anything under 300 miles, they treat 300 square miles as flat. And then in plain sailing navigation, according to Captain Ali Nabi Rizvi, they treat 600 square miles as flat, 600 nautical miles as flat.
Well, is nautical miles the same as a normal mile?
It's longer, if I'm not mistaken. So the nautical miles are longer than land, statute miles. And that's why I think like the holy argument of obstruction is just ridiculous in light of the fact that the professionals don't even calculate for it. So all these people for all these years that have been like, look, you can see the curvature right there. It's like you're going against all the professionals.
Major echo.
So it's like, am I going to believe some dude on YouTube who swears he can see the curvature out of his window, or am I going to believe the professionals?
Someone's causing an echo. Is it you, Anthony?
Oh, it might be.
What's up?
So, do you know this Ali guy, this sailor's tube guy? Are you in contact with him?
No, not at all. It's just this is somebody that I'm interested in navigation in general. I have a sextant. I'm like, I try to study this stuff on my own time when I can, and I've been interested in it for years. But now, granted, the navigation on like the fact that the 600 miles is flat, I've been saying this for like 2 years now, and I think it'll have its day when it's appropriate. But the idea is that these are standard accepting, navigation techniques. Like regardless of what any YouTube baller fanatic wants to say, the professionals, when they navigate, treat 600 miles as flat. Now, granted, I have a book, Nathaniel Bowditch's. Actually, I was borrowing it. I gave it back to my friend who's a captain, who also he makes he charts trips for international shipping. And he gave me a book that I was reading from Nathaniel Bowditch called The American Practical Navigator, which I recommend for anyone. And it's but I had asked this guy who's someone who actually charts the maps. I said, hey, I was bringing up the idea that they use the altitude of Polaris, like the degrees, to find the latitude, right? And this guy, he questioned me if that was true. And I was like, wait a minute, you're a pro, you know what I mean? You're someone who maps someone who makes charts for shipping that goes over 600 miles. And he doesn't even know that the altitude of Polaris is how we figure out latitude. This is why the ballers need to clean up their own camp, because granted, it's a sordid bunch, but there's a lot of flat earthers that have more knowledge about this system than the baller fanatics out here that claim they have degrees and such. Anthony, are you just going to type all overs?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back into my Hotmail. I can't remember my bloody password.
Sounds like an excuse to me, buddy.
Alwyn wants a link. Or he wants
I want $1 million.
Add
into the call. Oh, but tell me he has to be good. He can't be a contrarian.
You're like, yes, I can. No, I can't. Big respect. Shout out to Arwen.
What's going? Why can I not remember my Hotmail password? And it's been out. Something's just changed literally, and now it doesn't remember the password.
Hey, real quick, let me address Mr. Grimm in the chat room. Shout out to Mr. Grimm, by the way. Because he's saying that what I'm saying doesn't. Tell you what, Mr. Grimm, go look it up, and I have snapshots of the part where the guy says that, and this is where is your point of contention, and this is a reasonable point of contention, but don't fucking argue about you could see the curve of the earth at the beach. Is what do you call it? Is that this guy also says that after 600 miles, they start to use spherical trigonometry. Now, that said, that's fine. I could almost agree. I can agree that that's what the guy says. But the point is, 600 nautical miles they're treating as flat, which means that there's no effing way you could see the curvature of the Earth from the beach. So, and this is what I've said to every baller out here for however long. It's like, look, how come I can't see any curvature at 120,000 feet, but you want me to accept that I'm going to see a boat over the curve of the Earth at 4 miles away? You're nuts. That's a hard sell. So you might want to say, Grim, because this is all double talk crap as far as I'm concerned, is that, no, Grim, you're just talking shit about being incorrect. You don't know what you're talking about. You've made that clear on a couple of occasions. You may have a little bit of wit, but you're lacking in some critical thinking abilities. Look, they treat 600 nautical miles as flat. After 600 nautical miles, they say that they start to calculate sphericity. However, a gentleman that I know that makes shipping fucking calculations, he didn't even know that Polaris, the altitude of it, was used to figure out latitude. So what does that say about these folks in their understanding of the complete spectrum? It's compartmentalization. I mean, Grim, you could agree that there's compartmentalization in the vaccine department. Then you have to agree that there could be some compartmentalization when it comes to navigation and the applied sciences for figuring out the shape of the Earth.
Grimby knows a lot about the electric universe theory, and I don't know how he can know so much about it, but then dismiss it because you have to dismiss it on the heliocentric model.
Well, no, that's why, look, it's a wrap. Anyone who's saying that you can see curvature from the beach is discredited. You're done. You're done. They treat 300 square miles on land as flat. They treat 600 nautical miles as flat. If the Earth is a big giant ball, then it's got to be a lot bigger than what they say. Metabunk is a mess and totally wrong. And any curve calculator based on the sphericity of 24,900 miles of circumference is wrong. I mean, shit. Did Aristophanes have a solar filter? No. So it's like, how did he know? And besides, you know what else Aristophanes probably thought? He probably believed in spontaneous generation. Even Aristotle thought worms were created out of the mud.
Well, electric universe is not heliocentric, it's geocentric. Just wanted to correct you on that one there, Grimby. That's not correct.
I'm going to address Pete Shea in the chat. Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer, and many others were put in place. FECOR was inaugurated at the Raleigh conference, which is a church affair. It's all controlled. Prove it.
Well,
Please prove it.
Hey, let me ask this though, Karen, because I'll bring up a hot topic with any of this shit, as far as I've seen, because this is something I've just heard. There's something going on, and granted, I don't know enough about it to talk about it, and that's why I'm going to ask you, and I'm not.
Go ahead and ask. Issa. Okay, he just went quiet for me. Can anybody else hear him?
No, I think he's muted. I think he muted himself accidentally.
Nah, I'm here. Check 1 2.
Can anybody hear Issa?
Check.
Yeah, can now. Yeah.
Don't mind him, up, Nathan. Yes, we can hear him.
All right, okay, what's going on with there's something going on, and I don't know enough about it, so please forgive me. But there's something going on with like Mr. Davidson and a couple others that are putting together some kind of like, it seems like a religious convention with like a cracked dome, all this different stuff. Do you know about that? I don't know the name of the project either. Forgive me. But
Wait. Say that. What?
There's like a what the hell is this thing called? There's some kind of project or something, where it's like there's like a. Forgive me, I'm speaking out of turn. Let me find out the name of this freaking thing.
Well, while you do that, Issa, Karen, what was it you were going to address about Pete Shea's comment?
Because he's saying that the Raleigh conference was a church affair, which I disagree that it was a church affair. There was a religious speaker there, but it wasn't all church affair, because there are people there who aren't churchy, like Jaron and some other people. But trying to say it's all controlled, or they're saying FECOR is a psyop. No, it's not. I mean, everybody's looking at it from the outside and everybody's making up all these wild speculations. It's really not that exciting. It's just a group of people who are flat earthers who are trying to get scientific proof of flat earth. That's all it is. We're challenging mainstream science. It's not a psyop. It's not fake. It's
Karen,
not
can I just
from
can
the
I just tell you?
church.
Let me just tell you 3 things about Pete Shea. He thinks I'm an agent. He thinks that the dodo.
I know. He thinks everybody's an actor.
Yeah.
Everybody's an actor.
Oh no,
I know.
an actor. That's right, not an agent. He thinks I'm an actor. He thinks that he thinks things about the dodo that I've forgotten, but I still love, and he bums Aristarchus far too much.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
here's the thing: Skyfall. Have you heard of this thing, Skyfall?
Wasn't that a James Bond movie?
Probably.
Go on.
But I guess there's this thing called Skyfall, and it's like, and there's like this religious sentiment that's come about it, and it's like, it's kind of put people on like. Look, have you ever actually? I'll tell you, Karen. Have you ever heard of Cass Sunstein's book Nudge?
Mm-mm.
Okay, this is where a lot of the misunderstanding comes in. Is that some of us are reading and learning about all these social developers, and the issue becomes when it's like if you're going to try to trick the truthers. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. It's like it's going to be a tough task because there's always going to be somebody out there who's lunatic enough not to agree and inspect everything. And so
Yes.
you have this heightened superstition almost, or, paranoia, whichever way you slice it. Like, it's like this idea that people are trying to manipulate others. And when there is like, let's say, when people think that there's a hustle going on, this is why it's kind of like I've brought up this 300 square mile shit, because I even think if you're going to argue about obstruction, that's like a red herring at this point, because we know that there's no curvature to be detected optically. And so if in light of those things, it's like what people are concerned with is that groups like FE Course, these like that you guys are mixed with Skyfall. I don't adhere to these thoughts, but I
don't
you
even know
guys.
what Skyfall is. I never heard of it until you said it.
And that's where it is. I'm not surprised but people try to lump all these things together. It's like, you've got certain characters in the chat room that think because I think some people may have died on 9/11, I'm a government shill and da 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 da. And actually, that would be the first way to tell if somebody is actually a government shill is if they're calling everyone else shills for ridiculous claims like that.
I agree.
So I
agree.
It's like, where is anyone's discernment in all of this? But I'm also convinced real people are recognizing all of those things. Like all these tricks, like they fall flat nowadays because, usually because of the people that are trying to trick them and they're just pathetic. So they come across as morons. But the thing is that there is also the concept that people would be manipulated by other people. I don't know why FE Core gets attacked. I mean, it seems that if you ask anyone for money, all of a sudden you're suspect, which is respectable. But
But there's other flat Earth groups or whatever you want to call them that have received way more money than FECOR has.
I'm not trying to get into, even like I've got like if I get $5 in a super chat, like somebody's going to say I'm a shill because I have super chat.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
you can't. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right, and it's part of the thing, but it's also like I think it's a shame that it happens, and a shame that it happens to so many good people out here. I find it's weird too that certain people that are genuine out here get attacked for no reason at all. I mean, even if they're not involved with any of these things, or they even get, it's ridiculous. But I think so you don't know about the Skyfall thing, because some people are a little bit concerned that people would be getting hustled, or that they would be trying to hustle people that maybe aren't as, savvy to some of this. And that's where you wind up in this problem. But, if you guys aren't spending anyone else's money, then what's it matter to them?
Issa, let me read to you a comment in chat. About the when you say that nautical, what's the thing you say about such and such a people treat the Earth as flat over 600 square miles? What's the line?
Plane surveying navigation treat 600 miles as flat. Yeah, nautical miles as flat. Yeah.
Just for fact check,
miles.
Quote, just for fact checking, 600 square miles is less than 25 miles by 25 miles, with the observer in the center, not 600 linear.
No, 600 nautical miles are treated as flat. Here, let me try to post it. Let me get the pic.
Is that squared? Is it 600 square miles?
No. No, square. There's like there's miles squared and squared, and the point is that 300 square miles is just 300 blocks of like 300 miles in one direction.
Yeah, but what he's saying is it's only 25 miles by 25 miles, therefore you wouldn't expect to see curvature.
Yeah, there's no way you would see curvature on 300 miles or 600 miles. So therefore, if anyone tries to tell me that they're seeing curvature at the beach, it's safe to say that they're under mind control. Right?
Right.
Are you sure that I mean, I'm not doubting you, but well, I am kind of. But
Yeah, no,
I've always thought 300
Here,
square miles was like sort of like a lot less, not 300 miles one way and 300 the other. I thought it's been like
no. You have like 300 miles or like it's like miles squared and squared miles is the difference. So it's like
That's it's a difference between a line and a square, basically.
right, but they're both squares because it's like you have a like what do you call it? Like a square mile would be a mile to the a mile in one direction, mile to the right, mile to the right, mile to the right, right? So it'd be like but then you have like those blocks of mile blocks. So 300 blocks of a mile squared is what they're treating as flat. So 300 miles in one direction is considered as flat. Now, granted, I've had distinction, I had like hiccups in this the definition of squared miles squared. Like shit, I've even had talks with Curved Water who was trying to pin me against this. But I have looked at this and verified it, and I feel comfortable enough to say that they treat 300 miles as flat. They treat 600 nautical miles as flat. And verify it. Look me up. Prove me wrong. It's like, and good luck with that. Because like I'm looking at it like here, like I said, this is the article for the 300 miles. I'll put it into the Skype. I put it into the what do you call it thing earlier, the chat. But this
Pete
is
Shea. Pete Shea, not everything is controlled. People have free will. We have free will as men and women.
Well, yeah, but
not everything is controlled or infiltrated. Not every single little itty bitty facet is completely controlled by the powers that be. No.
That's absolutely correct. I completely agree with Karen. We are definitely not controlled.
Well, here's the thing. We are not
we
controlled.
are not controlled.
And Grim, let me just point this out to Grim. Grim goes, saying that the person that I'm citing about the 600 nautical miles, granted, he is a sphere earther. But the point is, even he recognizes that if you're treating, well, I don't know his opinion about this, but if he recognizes that 600 nautical miles is treated as flat for navigation purposes, then there's no freaking way you could see the boat go over the curve of the earth at the beach 6 miles or 4 miles away from you. So all you've done is made anyone who's come out here and argued for sphericity because you can see obstruction at something less than 300 miles away has made a fool of themselves. So whether or not that guy thinks it's a ball or flat is irrelevant. 600 nautical miles in one direction means you can't see a boat go over the curvature, means Bill Nye was wrong when he says that we could see the curve of the earth and that's why we think it's a ball. The ship went over the curve of the earth at fucking 5 miles away. Pardon my language. Yeah.
Issa, Sean's saying, look up the definition of square mile. And when I look up the definition of square mile, it reads, the square mile should not be confused with miles square, which refers to a square region with each side having the specified length. So I guess what he's asking, or I guess the point that he's making is, are you sure you're using the correct terminology?
Let me make sure I'm fairly certain I'm using the correct
Yes, he's using the right terminology. He's talking about an area of land.
Yeah, and it's like the 300 square miles, as I know it, right, will be a mile block, 300 blocks of 1 mile squares.
Right. So it's just an area of land, miles squared. The 8 inches per mile squared is a fallacious bullshit made-up curve calculation that they've done to account for the actual thing we observe, which is perspective. Kind of fits, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Ultimately ignores perspective because it's hijacked it. But 8 inches per mile squared is just nothing but horse crap. What Issa's talking about is that huge, vast amount of flat land that they consider flat. And that's in miles squared.
Well, I think 300 square miles is pretty much like 17 miles one
Here,
way and
look.
17 miles the other.
Look, here, I'm gonna put the
Because then you
picture.
would times 17 by 17, and you'd get 289 boxes in that same.
All right,
So it would be 17 miles one way, 17
Yeah, but
the
it's
other.
600 square miles. He was saying, isn't it?
look here. Let me,
Yeah. So if you did, well, let's work that out. 25 by 25. 625. So yeah, so about 24 by 20. So 24 miles one way, 24 miles the other. That would be 600 square miles, give or take.
look, this image right here. Hold on, real quick. I don't want to send. Okay, let me send you. See this image right here I just posted up?
Yeah.
Okay, look, this is you see 10 square miles is a bunch of boxes of 1 mile squares. So 300 square miles is 300 of those boxes.
So he's saying, have ESA provide the citation for the
I just did.
nautical?
I put it in the chat. I put it.
No,
underneath
for
the
what
chat.
for what you say for the citation. He says, I bet you it says square miles, not miles squared. You know, for the claim about in the actual site, the assertion that you say
I mean,
is
this
that
this guy's just being pedantic. I mean, yeah, he might have said it the wrong way around. We all know exactly what he's talking about. Who cares?
No. He's right. He's right to make the point. It's okay.
yeah, I
Because,
think he is
have
right
it this
because
way.
it'd be 25 miles squared.
Listen,
I
Wouldn't
don't
it?
hold
think
on.
so.
This is what
It's just pedantic.
This is what I've said. Listen, I've said that they treat 300 square miles as flat. That's correct. That's what I've said. I've said it correctly. Yes, they treat 300 square miles as flat, which means 300 1 mile boxes in one direction, not the whole perimeter, not miles square. We're
No,
talking
I
about
don't.
square miles in the sense that 300 miles in one direction, they treat as flat.
Don't think that's quite right, Isa.
Well, how about you just check the sites I put up? Look at the Oneida. Forgive me, the for plane surveying. Check out the link that I put with the Oneida-Boses, right? Link, and then for the let me find the link for you for the.
Easter, I've got it on screen. If you're able to see your screen.
Hold on one sec. Let me just get the plane surveying navigation. I'm gonna get this video so that everyone's cool. I put it in this one chat. Hold on, I'll find it. One sec. So here, I'll put. This is the link for the navigation video from the Captain Navi or whatever. And then what do you call it? Yeah, I'll put it into the Skype chat too, just so you have it. This is the video for the sailing, where he treats. And here, where's this? Okay, this is the. All right, that's the screenshot from where he's talking about it. So it's like 600 miles, nautical miles, is plane trigonometry can be used. And so it's the idea that they're treating that as a level plane when they are navigating. So 600 miles is treated as flat. So therefore, you can't see the curvature at the frickin' beach.
Yeah, but so I think what you need to think about is, like a Rubik's Cube, yeah? And it's got like 9 faces on each side. Well, that would be 3 square miles. Sorry, that would be 9 square miles. But it's only 3 miles one way and 3 miles the other. Because you have 9 squares in that same box. So it would be 3 square. So it'd be 9 square miles, but over 3.
If you're looking at a Rubik's Cube, look at it like this.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a Rubik's Cube, okay, remember there's made up of little boxes on one face of the Rubik's Cube. So let's say there's 4 boxes, right, on that Rubik's Cube. So 4 boxes, so 4 square boxes would just be one row of the Rubik's Cube. Now, if it was, boxes squared or whatever, then it would be the whole face of the Rubik's Cube. So there's a difference. What I'm talking about, and in navigation anyway, you're only using one direction, one line between 2 points. So there's no reason to use the miles squared. The only thing you would be using is square miles because and that's if you're going to look at it in that sense of mileage in the square mileage way. But really, it's just 300 miles in one direction or 600 miles in one direction are treated as flat, and plane trigonometry is used. After 600 miles, they say that they calculate sphericity. The thing is that anyone who rides a boat regularly is usually just calculating 50 to 100 miles at the most. Unless you're going to Hawaii or something, and even then they're using GPS and shit from out of San Diego, wherever they're going from. None of them, you know what I mean, use it. Like, it's just fascinating to me that you have like people who don't know this subject well enough come online and then try to like take, look at what's his name, that guy George going after Brian Mullins over a point that was a moot point anyway. Nothing to do with engineering.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem, is that I've had enough of being told that I'm stupid because I think in the 300 square miles or, 600 nautical miles. Well, it's like, take that up with the professionals, not with me. Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm just reading the books, using Google, figuring out that you're believing a bunch of bullshit that I'm not going to tolerate. Hey, if you want to believe, your girlfriend, that's what's up.
That PowerPoint presentation that you had, I'm just reading through what it actually says, and it says, I'm going to read what it actually says. Where the hell's it gone? I had it a minute ago. There it is. Plane surveying. It says 2 major surveying methods: plane surveying and geodetic surveying. And what it says is plane surveying generally covers small areas less than 300 square miles. So let's just do the maths on that. 300 square miles is what squared? 17 squared, is it?
Roughly, yeah.
So basically, is this the bit where it says?
No, look. It says 300 square miles, right?
Yep.
Okay, that has nothing to do with miles squared.
I said, but it would still only be 17 miles in one direction and 17 miles in the other. And in that area, you would be able to fit the 300 boxes that you're talking about.
Hang on. That's not my point. I'm not bothered about that point. What I'm getting at is, it says here the most commonly practiced method of surveying treats the Earth as flat or plane, is generally covering small areas less than 300 square miles. Well, if 300 square miles works out to be 17 or so miles by 17 or so miles squared, right? That would mean that Soundly's... Hang on. Wait. That would mean that Soundly's observations over Pontchartrain at 18 miles, according to plane surveying, should be flat.
Agreed.
Yeah, we see the more curve on Soundly than we do on anything else.
First off, look. So are you saying that mathforum.org is wrong?
No, what I'm saying is that if your citation is being challenged by Sean on the phraseology, then I can challenge the application of the phraseology in Sean's.
Right. But I think their application. What I'm trying to say is that looking at the definitions, like Ranty, if you pull up that image that I put in the Skype chat, right, where it shows this is 10 square miles. So see how each box is a mile? So if you're going to say 300 square miles, then you would have to take all those boxes and make them 300 down the page. So it's 300 miles in one direction.
That's not squared though, is it?
Listen, it's not square. It's not miles squared. That would be like the face of the Rubik's Cube. What I'm talking about is square miles. So that means just in one direction, one row of those boxes of the face of a Rubik's Cube. Do you understand?
Well, you could configure 300 square miles in a number of different ways. So I don't understand why having 300 miles in a row is pertinent to the surveying thing. Because it just says 300 square miles. It doesn't say how they're configured.
The reason it matters is because if I can measure 300 miles in any one direction that's flat, then it means that I can't detect curvature of a boat going over the beach at 3 or 4 miles away, right?
Well, I would agree with that. Yeah.
There you go, and that's my point.
But I think when they're saying this 300 square miles, they're trying to do it in a way that formulates a square. So
because
the
then
best
they'd say
way
miles
to
squared.
no, it would still be miles squared, right? Square miles, but it would be like 17 by 17 because that would give you a direction lengthways and latitude, longitude, whichever way you want to look at it, right? And it would give you 17 this way, 17 that way. It would still add up to the 300 square miles. I know what Ice is saying. You could technically have 300 square miles going in one direction, just one long line, but I don't think it's meant that way. I think it's meant with, like, if you was at the center, then it would be 8.5 miles that way in all directions, and that would cover the 300 square miles.
Okay, so you're just saying that mathforum.org just doesn't understand what they're talking about.
No, I'm thinking in the context that it's been said about 300 square miles. The citation?
Yeah, I know,
that
but you're talking about 300 miles squared, though.
Square miles.
Yeah, square miles is not miles.
Actually,
squared.
looking at it, I'm trying to see all sides of it, and I kind of agree with Issa that if you look at what this examples on screen is saying,
fucking hell yeah, I'm not wrong. I'm not fucking eating crow on this. This is bullshit.
Okay.
well, it's
I
all
am
right.
not.
Listen,
I swear to God, I'm so fucking pissed off about it.
I see it both ways.
yeah, I see it both ways.
There's
but
no both ways on that.
no. What Karen means is that
No. I agree with
emotional.
you. No. I agree with you that 300 square miles has nothing to do with 300 miles squared. I get what you're saying there. I'm just trying to understand what the because when you say 300 square miles, as far as
how about this? The importance is that. How about this, Karen? The importance is that there's no reason for laser experiments. There's no reason for any of that shit because the professionals treat 300 square miles as flat.
yeah, and based on what you've got on screen right now.
Then why are we all here still talking about it then?
You're damn right. And that's why I said, is this a red herring psyop? Is this the thing that
the reason we're all here talking about it is because a challenge has been made to the phraseology application. But when you look at the phraseology application in question, it doesn't support the challenge that was made by Sean. It actually supports what Issa's saying, because if it's 300 square miles, that is 300 in a line. Squares in a line, correct?
Yeah.
That's
but
based on this citation.
But Anthony, right, when somebody's lost at sea, right, and they've got to send a helicopter out to go and find them, they've got a GPS of the last place where they were going to be, and then they will give them a target area of, say, 150 square miles, and then they will do a grid pattern, grid formation, so they'll go up and down, up and down.
You're contrasting there.
I see what the difference is here. He says 10 miles square, not squared.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the difference. What
Ranty's doing, Ranty, if you look on screen now, if you look on screen now, Ranty, you've got the you're describing that bit, the face of the Rubik's cube, right? That's 10 10 miles squared. But what Issa's saying is that if it's 10 square miles, it's just a line of sight over a square box, but there's 10 of them in a box. So in this case, when it comes to
what does it say underneath? No, go down. No, go underneath the box where you just had it. Go down underneath the Rubik's cube. There's the first sentence. Just read that, please.
If you count or think a bit, you'll see that 10 miles square is actually 100 square miles. 10 times as much as 10 square miles. Words like square and squared can be tricky, which is why in maths we use symbols rather than words, so we can make it clear exactly.
Too far. Just need to go back over that first sentence.
Yeah, but that's the point in question. Sean's saying that there's a difference
10
between miles.
No, if you count or you think a bit, you'll see that 10 miles square is actually 100 square miles.
Yeah, because you're showing the face of the Rubik's cube.
Yeah, so you've got 10 by 10. So when I say you've got 17 by 17...
Yeah, but the citation that Issa relies on doesn't say square miles. It doesn't say miles squared. It says square miles.
Right.
That's what I've just said. So it's actually 100 square miles per 10 by 10. So I'm right.
No.
Yes.
No.
You got it wrong, Ranty. Look, it says 300 square miles. So when you go back to
Right. If 10
square
by
miles
10,
is this one.
Right. If 10 by 10 is 100
Listen,
Welcome
square
to
look.
my
miles.
dilemma, boys. Have fun with this one, because this one's just, trust me, I'm herbal. Keep looking into it. Point is, they treat 100 square miles as flat. They treat 300 square miles as flat plane surveying. They treat 600 miles as flat on the water. Everything else can suck my freaking whatever. My freaking water pipes, man. Because I'm fucking done
Ranty
with
is
this
right.
shit.
The phraseology that he's cited.
I'm dead on with this. Fuck the world, bro. Yeah, you
Ranty,
guys
did
can go. Yeah, go. Good luck with your navigation with that fucking madness you got going over there, Randy. I'll be, good luck getting lost at sea with that fucking. Well, it's square miles, so we're gonna go right.
Yeah, I think what's happening is Sean's made it sound complicated, and it is complicated, but it's to do with the actual way that they formulate the sentence. So it's 10 square miles compared to 10 miles squared.
I
So
feel like
put,
if
depending on which.
I had my boat, I'd be the only one getting where the fuck I was supposed to be going. Everyone else would be going everywhere. I'd be like, fuck y'all. On my boat's good to go.
So Ranty, because it says less than 300 square miles,
Yeah.
when we go back to what square miles one, it says 10
you-
square miles. It will be the top one, so it would be 300 square miles, which would be
No.
300 boxes in a line.
No.
That's
You're
what it
wrong.
says.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Right.
That's what it says. That's what they're talking about. That's where the confusion is happening. Square and squared.
That's why the image is
No,
so
it's to do with
important.
it's to do with which way is it squared miles or is it miles squared? Because depending on which way around the words go, mean different things. Right. So in this instance, it says generally covers small areas less than 300 square miles.
Right.
So
That's
it's not
perfect.
that it's got
right.
a D on the end. It's that the
Anthony,
square comes first.
Anthony,
So
you're not listening.
square
Yeah.
miles is a square, but it's continued by miles. So
Square
300 miles, 300 square miles is 300 boxes in a line.
No, it's not.
It is based on
No,
this
it's not.
citation.
No. Now go down. Now go down underneath the Rubik's Cube and read the first sentence and
Yeah, but look,
understand that.
when you put it the opposite way
No.
around and say 300 miles square, put the words the opposite way around, then you get the face of the Rubik's Cube. And if you
Anthony.
count or think of it, you'll see that 10 miles square, which is the top one, is actually 100 square miles.
No, it's not. The one right above it is.
If you count or think a bit, you'll see that 10 miles square is actually 100 square miles. 10 times, which is 10 square. He's right. Is right, Ranty.
He's not. You're just reading it and you're not understanding it. Honestly.
What I'm saying is, Issa's citation is right. And I'm not saying that it is right overall, but Issa's citation that he's presented is right. What this citation says is not the same as what.
But in that
Sean's
sentence, it also sort of it verifies what Issa said, because 10 miles square is, if you just now cut out that part where the comma is, 10 miles square is 10 times as much as 10 square miles.
Yeah, it's to do with the which way. It's to do with which word comes
Okay,
next.
well done, Karen, because I was listening along and I can't see any of this on my screen, but based on what you've just said, sorry, Ranty, it looks like you're wrong.
No.
What's happening?
What's on the screen now?
Look, Ranty. It says on that surveying thing, okay, generally covers small areas less than 300 square miles, okay? So 300 square miles would be the first image in that citation that I've put up here.
You're looking at 100 square miles on that box. That is
100 square miles.
It's in your face. It's right there. 10 by 10 is 100 square miles. It's right in front of you.
That's miles squared, dude.
If you count or you think a bit, you'll see that 10 miles square is actually 100 square miles, 10 times as much. That's why they put 100 squares in a box, in a square.
Ranty,
10 by
actually,
10.
I'll tell you something. Ranty, there's a famous, there's a famous surveying issue where one of the guys who was surveying for like Connecticut or something like that, he misused miles squared versus square miles. So that the town that he was going to have built would have been a peninsula like 1 fucking mile deep, wide at 100 miles long. it's a famous surveying case. I think it's in Massachusetts or Connecticut or something. The point is that this issue is quite contentious, but the thing is that what you're referring to is the 10 miles squared, which means that it's a box of like,
No, we're talking about 300 miles squared.
Tomato, dude. But the point is that 300 square miles, like the way that they use plane surveying, would be 300 miles in one direction.
No, it wouldn't.
I'll bring up Ranty, please. Don't make me be
Can we just move on from
Don't
this
make me be a
because
dick right now.
I'll do a hangout. I'll do a hangout later on my own channel and kind of laugh my head off at this.
Ranty, regardless of the interpretation,
You're looking at it right now, Anthony. It's literally on the screen.
You're making Ranty. I would say I understand it's a little confusing. I would say look at it a little longer. I've been they've been trying to wreck me on this point for a while, and I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to stand for it anymore. And if you think that you're going to laugh at me about this, I might be willing to just wreck you right now because I'm not in the fucking mood.
Hey, hang on.
It's getting real, guys. It's getting real.
Seriously, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't make me bring up the history of what is all of the history.
You heard him. Don't make him bring up the history, man. Ranty, you've been warned.
Please. Yeah,
Right,
like
look,
fucking
there
like
is another thing to
sunburns from
consider here.
chemtrails, dude.
Gents,
Like, dude,
gentlemen.
don't get me started, bro.
Gentlemen, listen, just hear me out. This has all started because Sean challenged the interpretation or the application of the interpretation. And when he said, and basically Sean said, I bet it says one thing over another. And when we've looked into it, and I think I've still got it on screen. Let me bring this back up on screen. Sean said, have Issa provide the citation and read it out loud, Anthony. I bet you it says square miles, not miles squared. But when we've looked into it, the miles squared bit is the issue because, let's zoom back into this. Oh, where's it gone?
Yeah, and real quick, I'm just going to shout out to Jimbo because Jimbo's out here thinking I bring the babble. Jimbo, you were the guy that said everyone should go kill Shaquille O'Neal because he went back to the ball on freaking Jimmy Fallon or some shit. And like you were trying to create a shitstorm of violence. You're nothing but a provocateur. So please don't bring anything up in my face right now. You lame ass person who belongs at a gay club somewhere in fucking Jersey.
Right, so let me finish my point, guys, because I think I can get this sorted. Even if you don't agree, I can get the point sorted because the point is important here. Sean said, I bet you it's in the citation that Issa relied on, which I'll bring on screen now. Sean says, I bet you it says square miles. Okay. So when we check it, it says less than 300 square miles. So
That's
Sean
right.
is indeed correct. It does say 300 square miles. However, whether Ranty agrees or not, just hold your water for a minute. When we look into what square miles means, so if you've got 300 square miles, it actually means 300 miles like in a line. That's what it means, according to this citation. It does, because otherwise it'd be miles squared, and it didn't say miles.
It says it underneath. You're reading the wrong thing. Are you honestly, Anthony? I'm trying to help you here because you really, really messing this up badly.
Right, Ranty, look, it's to do with which word comes after the number. Okay,
Square miles.
Square miles, less than 300 square miles. Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Square miles.
So the top one is square miles, but the
Yep.
one underneath is miles squared.
Which
So
one?
which is the one that we're to apply?
Wait for me to catch up because you keep flicking. You're not sharing.
Hey,
it
yo,
on
you
Skype.
can't fix stupid, I guess, right?
Right. So you see the top box.
Because you sound pretty fucking stupid right now, kid.
You see the top box.
Let
Keep
me,
fucking rambling. You're on some shill shit right now, dog.
Ranty, let
And yo,
me.
you better laugh it off because I just called your card, you faker.
This is terrible. You're terrible. Actually, seriously, you've got
Hey,
this
go look
wrong.
at the words, bro. Please.
You've
Yo,
got it wrong, mate.
I'm gonna back down and be a dick, but I'm just saying, like, look, go read
I
it. It
actually
took me a
agree
little
with
while,
Issa. I agree with Issa on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me. If Anthony stops flicking around and stays on the one screen for more than.
Ranty, listen, Ranty. Can you see my screen on Skype?
Yes.
Right. So what I'm going to show you is the claim by Sean was that have Issa provide the citation and read it aloud. I bet you it says square miles, not miles squared. So it's
Yep.
to do with which word comes after the number, okay?
Yep.
And he says square miles.
Yeah.
So when we check it, let me get it back. We see that it is indeed 300 square miles.
Yep.
However, on the citation provided by Issa, it says that square miles
Yeah,
is the
so
top
don't
one.
touch anything. Don't say anything. The top one that you're looking at now, that line of 10 boxes, that is a representation of miles squared. That is a representation. Yes, it is. You're not high enough.
Read the line. It says, and this is, what's the next 3 words?
And this is 10 square miles, but 10 square miles is not.
That. Yeah, okay, good. Screen share it for the public. I don't think it's on YouTube, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Listen to me, right? The top one that you're looking at is miles squared, right?
It's not.
Yes, it
not
is.
According to,
no, it says 10 square miles.
Not
no,
according
you don't know
to
how to
citation.
read, Ranty. You think you can get sunburned from fucking chemtrails, bro.
And the one
Seriously,
underneath.
you don't know how to read right now, dude.
And the one underneath is 10 square miles. The one
That's
underneath.
the opposite of what it says, Ranty.
Oh my God.
Ranty, can you not read what it says? It says, and this is 10 square miles. And it's referring to the lines in the boxes in a line.
You're cooked, kid.
You've got it the wrong way around, Ranty. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. What I'm saying is, as per this citation, what you're reading is the wrong way around.
Sorry, Anthony. Sorry to interrupt, Ranty. I'm really sorry. Can you scroll it down a bit? It won't appear on my screen because I've got like the big boxes, but I can't see the text above where your mouse is.
Yeah, this is the important part. I copied and pasted that into the chat so people could see the explanation.
Up, or whatever.
No, that's it. There, that first line that he's hovering on now, the one that's staring him right in the face, is basically saying there is a representation above, right now, 100 square miles. There's 100 boxes above him. That is a representation of 10 miles squared. 10 miles squared is the equivalent to 100 square miles.
Ranty.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not what it says. Look, go back down. It says, now listen, just listen very carefully. If you count or think a bit, you'll see that 10 miles square is actually 100 square miles, 10 times as much as 10 square miles.
Yep.
10 times as much as 10 square miles. 10 miles square is 10 times as much as 10 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
Ranty, that's not supporting your position.
Oh man, this is painful. It really is that you're not even getting this. If I had a 5-year-old child, if I had a 5-year-old child, he would know it.
Ranty, listen. I want you to read the top line on screen right now. Can you see it starts with the word and? Read the words.
It doesn't on my page. Can you scroll up? The opposite of the way you went last time.
Can you, Ranty, can you see it? It starts with the word and. Read them 6 words.
I just can't believe you don't get it.
Read the 6 words. Come on, read it.
I've already read it.
Yeah,
but you're not understanding it.
You can't get it on his show. It's crazy.
You're not understanding it.
It is now,
Randy,
thanks.
you're lost. Like,
it's all
probably
good.
in a lot of ways. The point is this, bro.
Forget the drawing. Forget looking at the drawing. Just all you need to know is 10 square miles, or
is the
10,
line.
10 miles square is 10 times as much as 10 square miles.
It's to do with the word that comes after the number. If the word is square, then it's a line. If the word is miles squared, then it's the face of the cube.
Well, you do realise that in the side chat, like, everyone's telling you that you guys are all wrong and not getting it, and I'm actually correct. You realise this?
Can you say?
I see people saying both things.
Oh, what do you got? An appeal to authority, Ranty? What, you can't handle?
No, it's just a case of, at the end of the day, you guys.
No, it's a matter of how to read English, dude. You don't even know how to spell properly. I see you constantly not able to spell properly in the chat. So please don't fucking argue about grammar here.
Right, Ranty. The word, can you see that it says 10 square miles, and that gives you a line? Do you agree? Mm-hmm. And the key word, the middle word is square, right? 10 square miles. Now, in the citation that Issa gave, it says less than 300 square miles. So that's the word in the middle is square. Do you agree that they're the same?
I agree that when you look at 10
10 square
Right, you keep changing
miles.
the screen over, and I'm behind you because I'm watching it on YouTube, so I'm not actually keeping up with you.
Right. I'm sharing my desktop. You should see it on the Skype. Can you open the
I'm
Skype
looking
window?
on the Skype now, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not understanding. You don't understand. How can you not understand what
Ranty,
square
listen.
miles is?
Please, Ranty, listen. Can you see it
No.
on the Skype?
I tell you what. Take this stupid representation off and go and research what square miles is.
Right.
We
East has been
Ranty, is this hold on, Ranty, is this a threat to all your footage?
What?
Is
No.
this a threat to all your footage? Because in reality, there's no way that your footage would any
So go and crawl
be
back under the rock
relevant.
you came
Hang
under.
on,
We've
hang
got
on, hang
300
on.
miles in one
I
direction.
tell you what. Why don't you just go and piss
did I
off
hit a hot
your
button?
baller
Is that why you're
friends
getting all worked
and
up,
go
buddy?
and find some friends over there because you don't have friends
We all
anyway.
worked up. Look at
Nobody
you,
really
buddy.
likes you, mate.
Yo, why don't you and
Listen here.
Zippo go back to
Do
the
one.
gay club you guys
Go
came
and play
from,
some
dude?
music somewhere.
Gentlemen, come on. Issa, stop poking the bear. Right, Ranty, just read what it says here on the site.
Done. Cook.
Isa was asked to present the citation, right? And Sean said, I bet it says 300 square miles. And it does. It says 300 square miles. However, on the citation, on the evidence that he's presented to support his case, the 300 square miles is the line of the box at the top. Because the word square is the middle word. However, if it said 300 miles square, then it would be the face of the cube on this evidence. You're not listening, are you?
No, I'm just finding my own citation. Thank you very much.
Good luck, buddy.
But, Ranty, it's not so much that you found your citation. On the citation that Issa's presented, it supports his version. Now, if you can't accept that, then you've got to argue the comprehension. But
Okay.
if you realise that it does support his version, then Issa was right. Sean was
Here
wrong.
we go. I'm sharing my screen if you want to have a look at it. Are you seeing my screen? Calculating square miles. 2 miles times by 4 miles equals 8 miles squared. That is how you calculate.
Right, that supports Issa.
No,
that
it
doesn't
doesn't.
support you.
10 by 10 equals 100 square miles. 17 by 17 equals 289 square miles. That is how you work out square miles.
Read that again.
Calculating square miles. 2 miles times 4 miles equals 8 miles. It really is pretty simple. So if I go, right.
Now that
square
actually,
miles.
that
17
contradicts the citation that Issa's provided.
Equals
Ranty.
289.
Ranty, listen. Ranty. That contradicts the citation that Issa's brought up and supports you.
Well, here we go.
Agree.
This is sciencing.com. How to calculate square miles. So if I go 17 miles one way and I times it by 17 miles the other way, I have an equal of 289 square miles.
But
almost
we're not trying to calculate. What we're trying to do is distinguish between square miles and miles squared. And I suggest that perhaps that's not the point of the article.
This is in regards to, hold on, real quick, and this is in regards to surveying.
The citation that Isa brought up was square miles. I've gone to a square mile calculator and showed you that if you do 17 miles one way by 17 the other, you get the square miles. Right?
Well, I don't think you'll get.
When he says 300 square miles, it is 17 or 17.2 or whatever by 17.2 miles in either direction to give you the total of 300 square miles.
But the bit that I don't think you're getting, Ranty, is that it says there's a difference between 10 square miles and 10 miles squared.
But it isn't miles squared that he's talking about. We're talking about square miles.
Correct. But on the citation that Issa's presented,
square miles.
No, it's the other way around.
No, it's not. It's 300 square miles. It's not 300 miles squared. It's 300 square miles.
It is square miles. Yeah.
Right, Karen.
So if it's 300 square miles, then that would be 17 miles one way and 17 the other.
Karen,
no, that would be a 17. How about this? No, 17. A 17 mile.
Gentlemen, stop.
Listen. 17 square miles would be one box of 17 miles, right? Each side.
We're not talking about 17 square miles. We're talking about 300 square miles.
Wait a sec.
Listen, so you're talking about one section of a square of a like. What I'm talking about is one unit.
Oh my days.
So 1 unit of a square of 1 mile in one direction is what they're talking about in regards to
Isa,
surveying the land.
you see in my screen, yeah? This is how I calculate a square mile. I do 17
No, I
miles one
understand.
way
No, look,
and
you can have a, look,
17 the
you're talking
other.
about one box.
Right, Ranty and Isa, can you stop a sec, please? Karen and I
Carry on, I'm
understand
gonna
the
bow
issue
out
here.
for a second.
Karen, do you agree that the citation that Ranty's brought up contradicts Isa's citation?
Does it contradict it? No.
Yeah, because Ranty's
I mean,
brought one up that says calculating. Move it up, Ranty, so we can see the title.
yeah,
How to calculate square miles. It says how to calculate square miles, and that
Right.
contradicts Isa's one that is 10 square miles, showing it as a row.
Because that's talking about 1 unit.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it contradicts it, but to me this isn't a contradiction. It's just a different way of looking at it. Because on the citation, the question is 10 square miles versus 10 miles square. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the number 10 is in both of those. So it's like, okay, 10 square miles could be 1 mile in a row of 10 miles, 10 square miles.
Yeah.
But it could also be, 2 miles in rows of 5. Like that's just a different way of looking at it. But if you say 10 square miles versus 10 miles square, well, then that's where the difference is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Isa's citation cites 10 square miles, but then Ranty's brought up a citation that says this is how you calculate square miles, and that's referencing the grid.
It by the length and the width to get
right, Ranty, I know.
Well, yeah, that's what I said in the beginning, that the square miles could be represented in different formations.
Yeah.
Which is why when we're talking about this guy with his boat that says over a 300 square mile, I look at it as a grid formation, as if he was trying to find somebody that was lost at sea. They would get out and they do the grid formation. They go 10 miles one way, 10 miles the other. That would give them 100 square miles to go through. So when this guy says that, when the guy says that if you measure in some water over a 300 square mile distance, that to me, in my logical brain, says 17 miles one way, 17 miles the other would give you roughly 300 square miles. Not 300 miles in a straight direction. You'd be talking about it in a grid formation, like a Rubik's Cube.
All right. I think the easiest way to deal with this is to get Isa to basically have this out, because if you the way I see this, Isa's presented evidence to support his claim, which looks like it's an email from somebody of some kind.
No, it's mathforums.org or whatever it is. Look, the thing is that, there's cases of surveying, like where people were surveying and mapping out land, where they used square miles and they almost like got killed for it because they didn't use miles squared, which was the bigger concept. Because what they were doing was, when they created these designs, they were making essentially like peninsulas. You know what I mean? Like one line of property when it was supposed to be miles squared. The point is that when it's saying square miles, it is in one direction. And then when it's saying in miles squared, that would be the collective wealth, like the land of a county or something. That's why these people had these issues, because they used square miles, and they wound up finding that they were only getting 100 miles in one direction at 1 mile wide.
All right, so right now on screen, I've got just gone back to basics to go back to the Wikipedia link, which said at the end, it should not be confused with miles squared. So according to this citation, miles squared, which refers to a square region with each side, the square mile is an imperial and US unit of measure for an area equal to the area of a square with the side length of the one. Yeah, so this supports Isa. This is saying that 1 square mile or 10 square miles is a line, squares bolted onto the end in a line, but it should not be confused with miles square, which refers to a square region with each side having a specified length. So there is a distinction between the two words. Isa's right. There must have been fallouts over the phraseology used. And Sean's right to pick up on it, because he's emphasizing the point that there's a disagreement between the phraseology. But what's the answer? In the citation that Isa's provided, let's go back to the citation. It says, generally covers small areas less than 300 square miles. So if we go back to these 300 square miles, will be 300 square miles is an imperial and US unit of measure for an area equal to the area of a square with a side length of one
Equal to a
statute mile.
square.
Right.
Yeah, equal to a square. Yeah, exactly. So you have to fit everything into a square, which is where you do 17 by 17.
With one side, a side length of one statute mile. So that is basically the same as what Issa was saying with regards to the top one, which is the line.
And now bring up the calculator to work out how you would fit in 300 square miles.
Well, all I'm saying...
You got it. You're actually looking at it now. The 10 by 10 is 100. It says 100 underneath.
I know, but Ranty, what you're not doing is spotting the difference between square miles and miles squared.
The citation is for square miles.
No, Ranty, you're calculating for the 1 unit of the square. That's what you're doing. You're, because okay, yeah, if you have a unit that's 2 feet long and 2 feet whatever, you're trying to calculate the surface or whatever it is. What I'm trying to say is that calculated 1 box surface that you're talking about is 1 unit of measurement, and that 1 unit of measurement, that block, would then be in any one direction, however many blocks that square mileage would be, because it's 1 square mile would be 1 mile, 1 mile, 1 mile. Now, granted, 1 times 1 would be 1. You can work out whatever it is. But the point is that it's the way that they map land, and they map it in this square miles is square miles, so that it's 1 mile box in 100 and 300 miles in one direction. But it's only that 1 box. What you're trying to do is calculate the size of that 1 unit that we're referring to.
There you go. Just take the square root, Charlie. Just take the square root of 300. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what you should do.
I can't.
Right, my position is that Issa is correct.
Okay, do you see though? Okay, if say that box is 300 miles squared, right? So then there would be 17 on each side.
Yep.
Right. Okay, but 300 square miles doesn't necessarily mean 17 by 7. You know what I mean? There's the difference.
Yeah, but I think when he was saying in the format that he's talking about it on his boat, when he says that we class 300 square miles as being essentially flat, what he's thinking of is placing himself in the middle. What would 300 square miles be? Well, it would be a 17 by 17 mile in from where he is.
The problem is it's not. Maybe they didn't put it right. Maybe they didn't specify it clearly enough to know which way that they're meaning it.
No. If you're in the center of a box that's like what you're thinking about is miles squared, Ranty, not square miles.
I've just done the calculator.
No, I'm just saying, if you're at the center of a box, right? And that you're looking at that idea that you're in 300 square miles, that you're in the middle of a box that has 300 miles on the perimeters, right? And that's not what we're referring to. It's it's the idea that you're just taking one of those lines that would be the top of that unit and making it 1 mile thick and taking it down. That's the difference. That's why the surveying, maybe I'm explaining this incorrectly or something, but the surveying issue, historically, people have mapped out counties that would have been the sliver of what it should have been because of this discrepancy. So square miles, as indicated in the imagery that I showed with the boxes, that's why 300 boxes, 300 miles in one direction is what they think in plain surveying that they can see. So they treat that 300 miles as a level plane in that direction. They would have used miles squared in the reference if they meant the box of 300. In my opinion, that's the way I've read it. Maybe, and this is why the only argument I'm trying to really make from this takes away anything that any boat is going over the curve of the earth. That's all that I'm pointing to. Even if it's, I don't even know.
I agree. 17 miles is long enough for him to say, it's like a 200-foot drop. But in my opinion, I don't believe it's 300 straight miles.
Okay.
That isn't how square miles work. It should be 17 by 17.
Well, then why do they have that imagery up on this forum?
It's right there in front of you. It says
Yeah, it's in one
100
direction.
square miles with
When
100
it says
boxes.
square, check it though. When it says square miles, it has 10 boxes that are 1 mile by 1 mile in one direction. Why do they have that?
You're looking at the wrong image that you should be looking at. You should be concentrating on the biggest one, 10 by 10, and where it
Riley,
says
take
it's
over
100
for me,
square
please.
miles.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Somebody
Yep.
take over. I can't.
Hey, Ranty is correct. So stop fighting over this and move on. It doesn't matter anyway.
Hold on, bro. No. I'm not relenting on this issue. I'm not doing
Yeah,
this.
I know, but
I'm
you're
not
wrong.
how am I wrong then?
Ranty is correct.
Okay, so why do
Ow.
they have the imagery up of square miles being in 10 miles one direction? And why are there so many historic issues of people putting surveys together where they only had a sliver of the land that they were supposed to have? Using like the difference between miles squared and square miles is the reason for that problem.
Square miles is an area, but miles squared isn't. You have to go to the area. So Ranty's correct. Can we move on? I got to go eat some breakfast, man. You guys are killing me.
Yeah, I think you're mistaken, but sure. I think that you're remiss in recognizing that in surveying, the 300 miles would be in one direction.
Well, 300 square miles. Ranty is correct. Something like 17 by 17.
Well,
It
that would
doesn't
be
matter.
right, and that would be 1 unit of a square mile.
It doesn't matter anyway.
Listen, man, that would be 1 unit of a square mile, and that would not be square miles in relationship to. It could be like, because let's say you had 1 mile by. What you're trying to do is complicate the numbers, and the point is that 1 mile by 1 mile would be. Hold on, 1 mile by 1 mile is your squared mile. Now, 300 of those put into surveying talk, 300 square miles would be one box in one direction 300 times, not the miles squared, which would be the mileage of 17 by 17.
No, you got it backwards. Square miles is an area by definition. Miles squared isn't.
Are you not okay? So is the citation that I've put up wrong?
Yeah, I think this. Where'd you get the citation from?
It's mathforums.org. I think I'll post it again here in the chat just to make sure here.
Yeah, I didn't see where the citation came from. I think they're snorting shrooms because square miles is an area.
Wow,
Miles.
I'm amazed that you guys are taking this stance, to be quite fucking.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter anyway because
No, it kind of fucking does because it nullifies the whole reasoning for having a flat Earth debate. If all the professionals already admit that the
Isa, let me have this a sec. John, can you read what's on screen at the minute? The square mile.
I can't.
You can't. Can you not see
read?
I'm screen sharing, am I not? Oh no, maybe not.
Isa, did you say I can't read?
Well, you said you couldn't read it, right?
I can't see it.
What,
John, it should be in
your
the
eyes too.
John, it should be shared on Skype.
Calm down, y'all.
I'll tell you what,
Don't
Isa,
get me
you
started, man.
better calm down.
John,
What? You're the one who's got problem with your eyes and you can't read. What?
Oh my
Gentlemen.
gosh, Isa, calm down.
yeah, come
All
on,
right,
both of
don't
you
get me
calm down.
started, bro. I'm real good at this.
Right, John,
You
can you read what's on
started.
screen? It's on the Skype chat.
No. Let me just say this. It's over with that. Square miles is an area. You're trying to measure an area, right?
With
You're
one side as
confusing-
one statute mile. Correct?
You're confusing miles squared with square miles. That's all this confusion is. And like I said, it doesn't matter anyway.
What, John, for a square
I
mile.
don't have to read it. I know what an area is.
Right, but a square mile has one side with a length of one statute mile.
But Anthony, you're frustrating us. It's like we just know this. Everyone seems to know this.
But it says in black and white, it should not be confused with miles squared, which refers to a square region with each side having the specified length. But you guys are getting this the wrong way around and saying that this is wrong.
You are.
Look at what's on screen.
I don't have to look at it. I know what an area is.
So you're basically dismissing evidence contrary to your opinion.
No, I'm not dismissing evidence. I'm dismissing your wiki, and you're confusing the issue here. Look up area.
Right.
Sorry,
It
just
says
to
in
get clear,
clear
sorry, because
black
I'm a
and
bit
white,
confused
it
now,
should
John.
not be confused
Hold on,
with
Anthony.
miles
Sorry
squared.
to interrupt, Anthony. So, John, are you saying that it's this wiki post is wrong? Is that basically what you're saying?
I don't even know. Hold on 1 second. Let me try to get it.
Should be screen shared on Skype.
Yeah. Oh, I got it right now. Hold on. Yeah, they're talking about area.
Right. Look, the citation that was challenged by Sean. Sean said, "I bet you it says square miles," and it does. It says square miles. Do we agree?
Sean who?
Doesn't matter who. It says Sean said, "I bet it says square miles," and it does. It says square miles. Do we agree? It says square miles.
300 square miles. An area greater than 300. As soon as it says area, you're done.
Why?
No,
Why? Just hold on, Anthony. Hold on. That's the third time you've said that, John. So just explain what you mean.
It's almost kind of trying to explain the color blue.
No. Come on, it's highlighted here, John.
Like if you've got a field.
Hold on, give him a hold on, Ranty. Hold on. Just give him a second to compose his thoughts. He's trying to put something that's fairly rudimentary, but also quite difficult to verbalize.
Yeah, because I'm just using area, and my blood sugar's really low.
Yeah, but the importance, not the word area. What's important is the arrangements of the words to describe the numerical value.
I understand where you're trying to go with this, but you're trying to dismiss that word area, and that's where you're wrong, because that's the whole point.
No, because it's still an area, whether it's square miles or miles squared.
Yeah, but like I told you before, it's to measure an area, it's square miles. Miles squared is not an area.
It is.
Per mile squared is not. It is not.
Yeah, it is. Look, let me show. Let me go back to it.
Yeah, you can go back to wiki all you want.
So a square mile is with a side length of 1 statute mile. That's for a square mile.
Yeah.
But miles squared refers to a square region having each side with the specified length. So in this case, it'd be like 17 miles square. 17. Which way around is it? Miles squared, yeah. So it's distinguishing between square miles and miles squared.
Yeah,
and a square mile
miles is an area.
They're both areas.
No, not per mile squared isn't an area. Like 8 inches per mile squared, that's not an area. That's all I'm saying.
Karen and Nathan both get this. Ranty and John don't.
We don't get it because we're right.
No. Neither of you.
You can't say it any easier than that. You guys are wrong.
No, look. There is a difference between a square mile because it should not be confused with a mile square.
That's it. I'm finished with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
Yeah, no. But you guys got wrecked today, dude. This shit is the truth.
Hold on, this hasn't been concluded. What are you talking about, Issa?
Yeah.
Hold on, look, check it out, right. Issa has sniffed a little bit of victory. Check it out. Check it out. Issa sniffed a little bit of victory and is declaring victory. This is an unsettled issue as far as I'm concerned. I can't quite figure out why there's a confusion here.
For a minute. I'm not backing down on this. Y'all can go back to the ball with your freaking bullshit.
To be honest, I'm with Issa. Issa's citation matches the Wikipedia one, and the one that Ranty presented wasn't.
If you go a little further down in that PowerPoint, because I downloaded it and I was looking at it, in that surveying PowerPoint, there's a page. It's page, what is this? Page 19 of 42. It says horizontal distances. Each measurement has both a length and a direction. Length is expressed in feet or in meters.
Yeah, but
Direction
that's-
is expressed as bearing of the azimuthal angle relationship to a reference meridian, blah, blah, blah. But
I didn't say per mile squared didn't have a length and a direction. I'm saying it's not an area measurement.
They're both area measurements, though.
No, no.
They are, because look, the
You have to
square
define
mile,
area.
the square mile has one side that is one statute mile, whereas mile squared has both sides that are the same side based on the area. Same size based on the area.
You guys still gonna be here? I gotta go get something to eat, man.
Yeah, go and get something to eat, and we'll battle it
Go
out.
get some humble pie, John.
It's not humble pie. You say I get it, but I'm still trying to figure out where the confusion lies. I think I get the concept perfectly, but there's still confusion. So I want to know. I want to get to the root of why there's confusion, and I'm not there yet. So who's right and wrong? Who knows?
John and Ranty are not contrasting that there's a difference between a square mile and a mile squared.
I already did. I told you one's an area measurement, the other isn't. It's
They're both in areas because one of them's got an area
God.
side that's one statute mile in length.
Hey, I gotta go. I gotta go get something to eat. But continue
You'll
on.
just-
I'm sure you'll be talking about the same thing when I get back. Hold on.
Dirt to dirt.
Issa, I don't know how else to help you here, man, because I'm with you on this one. I agree with what you've cited as consistent with the Wikipedia citation, and the one that Ranty's presented that didn't support your version was more about the maths than the phraseology.
Yeah,
So
no,
that
I was
could
talking
be-
about. Yeah, no, I already saw the problem. Like, look, I've been studying this for a minute. I've been really upset. Like, I've been called out on it. People say I'm freaking stupid because I don't understand this, that, the other thing. But there's times in my life when I recognize what's real, and everyone else calls me crazy for it, and I just don't give a fuck. It's like, look, this thing is like something I've looked into for a minute now, and I am, I'm just saying that this is what they look at it like in plane surveying. This is their language. Don't be mad at me. Go take it up with the plane surveying navigation fucking guides and the education system. Not my problem. Forgive me, but forgive me being rude and everything, but sometimes, man, I just can't handle when people aren't, especially over this issue, because I've taken enough flack for it. And for me, it's like, this is beautiful, exemplary, professional evidence that no goddamn boat ever went over a freaking curve of the ocean or the earth at 4 or 5 miles away, and that anyone that says so is practically fucking crazy.
hey, I'm gonna read what somebody posted in chat because I know this person and they're very smart. Indio 007 says, you guys are confusing an area with the quadrature of a distance. Quadrature.
What's a quadrature?
Method.
That's a new word on me.
Okay, as I'm about to read that, he posted it. The process of constructing a square with an area equal to that of a circle or of another figure bounded by a curve.
Can you repeat that, please?
The process of constructing a square with an area equal to that of a circle or of another figure bounded by a curve.
Right, so what it's saying is you could have a random area that's not actually physically square, and you need to work out how big it is, and you can basically translate that into, I don't want to get the term wrong now.
Quadrature?
Miles squared, correct? That
10 by 3. Sorry.
Oh, hold on, Ranty, hold on. So when you're... Sorry, can you give me the word again?
Quadrature?
The quadrature is, if I'm correct in my understanding of this guy is just explaining it. What was his name again? Something 07?
Indio 007, yes.
Thank you very much to you. It's a way of working out how big an area is when it's not actually square. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it sounds like to me. Especially in surveying, because you're not, obviously if you're surveying land, you're not going to be surveying perfect squares and perfect circles. If you look at any sort of land border map or property map, the line, the shapes are all jacked up.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan, you can have 300 square miles in 10 miles one way and 30 miles the other. So if you owned a piece of land that was 10 miles long by 30 miles wide, it would cover 300 square miles. You could also have the same if it was 17.2 miles by 17.2 miles. It would work out to 300 square miles. So you can have it in different shapes, but it will still be the area that it
that's
covers.
not the point. That wasn't the point being made.
Hey, I still didn't get anything to eat, but something hit me. Maybe it could solve it. Remember the presentation that I gave on the solar? And the study said it was 9,000 square kilometers. Remember that, guys?
Yep.
And then remember when I did the measurement from north to south, the distance, straight line distance? It was 100 miles. Maybe
Right.
can you guys see that now?
The salt plains.
Yeah, the salt. It was the first one. Remember that, Nathan?
Yeah,
No, I do
said,
definitely remember. So
yeah.
what John's saying is you've got an area of 6,000 square kilometres, which equates
9,000.
to 100 miles across.
And 100 miles the other way.
Well, no,
Yeah.
because it's it's not square, but yeah, in
And
principle.
you know what? I just thought of something else, and maybe this will sort of help clear things up. Maybe not. I don't know. But in surveying, the equipment that they use for surveying is only good up to a certain distance, and that distance is not very far. It's not very far.
Right. I was just going to say that too. That's another important point.
Right.
Yeah,
They said
so-
the Adelaide can work up to
So
10
they
miles.
couldn't be referring to 300 miles in one direction because their equipment isn't even able to calculate anything.
No.
any
Well, hold on.
higher than-
If they were
got it.
hold on. Well, hold
got
on.
it,
Let me get into that.
Good job.
Yo,
I'm going to go get something to eat, okay?
Thanks, John.
Okay. So
like,
for me, that kind of makes it.
well, hold on. No. Hold on one sec. If you're going to take into account that they're measuring 10 miles by 10 miles by 10 miles at their, because I think 10 miles is the relevant distance to what they're using the instruments with, and I think like if they're using those, like when they're doing specific measurements, it's like I've heard that they treat 100 miles square, which would be your 10 miles. So that's where that comes into play. What this is saying on this document that I've provided is that they generally use the concept of 300 square miles as a level. Now the point is that they measure that 300 square miles in one direction as, like, let's say they might be measuring it in 10, in 100 miles squared boxes, which would be like 10 miles by 10 miles. So like, but they're calculating for that 300, and then that's where the geodetic survey starts actually calculating any curvature or anything like that to be put into it. But when measuring plane surveying, it appears that they use 300 square miles, which, take it up with them if they're wrong, because it says 300 square miles. And the way I've read it is that it's 300 miles in one direction. And it's verified to me when I look at plane sailing navigation, which treats 600 miles in one direction as flat.
I still agree with Issa.
And
What
there's
is-
the
what-
discrepancy of the way that this language has been used in surveying itself when mapping out, for instance, the Americas, when certain people weren't using square miles versus miles squared in regards to shaping their counties.
Yeah.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Can you display this, please? I'm just going to send you a link, and I just want you to bring that up. So just in the side chat, I've put the Salar de Uyuni, so the Salt Lakes. So if you can just display that, please. As a search on Google.
Do you mind if I add Jose?
No.
Sure.
Ranty, what do you want me to do?
Just go to the top, the Wikipedia one. So can you just read the first sentence?
Square kilometers.
No. Can you just read the first part?
You mean like you wouldn't do for me before?
It's the world's largest salt flat at 4,086 square miles.
Right. Notice that neither square miles nor square kilometers is cited as a reference.
Just
But let's
listen to what it says. 4,000 square miles, right?
Right.
So,
So let's
in
go.
that, so
let's go.
we know that it's not that long. So if you go on Google Earth and you just check the distance of those, it's 100 miles by about, what is it, 40 miles? That would give you the 4,000 square miles.
Ranty, do you agree or disagree that what that cites there is the
Square
same
miles.
as what we? So right, square miles. It's the same as this, right? You
It's
agree?
the same as the link that I've just sent you, yeah.
Right. So this and the link that you just sent me, and Sean's citation that he was questioning, are all saying square miles. Agreed?
I don't know about Sean's, but I'm looking at these two right now. So that one and the other one.
I might still have Sean's open. There's Sean. Have Issa provide the citation which we have on screen, plus your one that we've got on screen, and read it aloud. Bet you it says square miles. And this one
Right.
does say square miles, and
So-
you've just agreed that it's matching what yours says for square miles.
Yep.
Are we still in agreement?
Yep.
Square miles. So then Issa was asked to present the evidence that supports his assertion.
Forget Easter's. I'm not interested in that. I'm looking for the truth. So now we need to get to the Salt Lakes, and we need to find out how do we get 4,000 square miles into that little region? How do we get that? How do we get 4,000 square miles into that small region of Salt Lakes? How do we
Ranty,
do that?
the
How do we
issue's
do
not
it?
the issue's not what's right or wrong at this point, because
Yes, it is.
it
This
isn't,
is what the
because
whole point of this
hang on,
debate has been
at
about.
this point it's not. At this point,
No,
it's
don't
whether
be
or
running
not.
away from the answer, Anthony.
Hang on, listen, please. At this point, the issue is whether Issa was right or wrong based on his cited evidence, right?
No, not. We're
Please,
not on
Ranty,
about that. Whether
please.
it's no, I
Ranty,
disagree.
please.
I'm holding up a disagreement because I don't agree that whether he's right or wrong using his citation is irrelevant. Whether
Ranty,
he's right or
please.
wrong or not, in the end,
Please,
at the
Ranty,
day,
I
it's the
beg of
point.
you, just listen to me, please. Issa's presented his citation for his evidence that matches this part that says 10 square miles is in a line, one
You
of
just
which
like
is
arguing.
1 statute mile in depth.
You could get to the truth very quickly.
Hang on, which matches the Google's definition for square miles, which also stated it should not be confused with miles squared, which will be the side of the Rubik's Cube. So at this point, Issa's citation matches what it says on Google, and they both seem to be correct. Now,
He's wrong.
you then presented evidence to say that it wasn't correct, and then you gave the calculator. And I said that was the focal point was on the maths there. It wasn't on the phraseology. But then you've come back to this other one, which also cites 10, whatever the value was, square miles. And relative to the citation that Issa gave, it's giving it in a straight line
I
based
don't
on
care
this
what his
citation.
citation is. I don't care which way you read it or which way
But
you
you've
try
got
and
to
dice
agree.
it up. It isn't
You've got
correct.
to agree that Issa's citation is consistent with his position. Now, if you want to go and find a different citation, then that's fine. But you've got to give Issa the point that he's got a citation with his version of events.
I want you to use logic now, and I
No,
want you to use reason.
I want you to agree.
Two things that I want you to try with.
Ranty, I want you to agree that Issa has presented cited evidence that supports his assertion.
No.
Right, then you're an evidence denier. Then
no, I
know,
read it
you know better
differently
than a ball.
because you're not scrolling down to the underneath the squares, are you? You're staying on the top part. I'm not looking
Ranty,
at the top part.
It says this is square miles.
I'm not looking
line.
at that. I'm
it
not
says
looking
this
at that.
is miles squared, a box.
No,
And
no, it doesn't.
It does. Look,
No,
miles square or miles squared makes a square.
I understand why people get annoyed with you because you deliberately don't go to the point that I am trying to make you read, which is underneath the square that is 100 boxes.
Ranty, when
Yes.
we go back to the Google thing, it says it should not be confused with miles squared, which is what we're talking about.
We're not
which
talking
refers-
about square miles.
We are. We're talking about square miles because that's what all three citations have used. They've all
300
said square miles.
Yes, it's not the same as miles squared. We understand this. Or as
Yeah.
yes,
But
we're looking for. Oh my goodness.
The
We're
three
looking for square
citations that
miles.
we were just talking about, which was Issa's claim, Issa's supporting evidence to support it, and this document, are all talking about square miles,
Right.
not miles squared.
Whatever dodgy evidence has been shown, I'm not really interested. I want you to do this with me and to figure out how they get to a 4,000 miles.
Not unless you
4,000
accept
square
that
miles.
Issa's,
I'm not
not unless you
accepting it because
accept
it's
that Issa has
wrong.
presented
You might
evidence
as well
that
be
supports
saying
his
you can see
version.
the boat go over the curve, Ranty.
I just want you to try and address how they got the 4,000
No.
square
I'm
miles
looking
to
in the
Salt
chat.
Lake.
I'm looking. Hey, check it out. Look, see, people seem to have this mistaken in the idea that it's like that the miles squared is not is not an area. I don't know where they're getting their sites from, but I think you have it backwards. I understand it's a complicated semantical issue here. The thing is that square miles, as regard to surveying, goes in one direction in regards to one unit of a square. Now,
Yeah,
what everyone
right.
is trying to say, and I'm even seeing it in chat, I'm actually surprised to see who's putting it in there. Like, I thought you were smarter than this. Because the point is that miles squared would be a large box of different individual squares of the square mile. So like it would be the face of the Rubik's Cube would be miles squared. And then the square miles would be one section of that Rubik's Cube going up the top line of one of the one of the faces of the Rubik's Cube.
Issa, just give me a sec. Ranty,
Yeah.
even though you disagree with Issa, you've got to credit him with giving cited evidence that supports his version of events. Even if his version of events are wrong, you've got to credit him with giving evidence that supports his version of the interpretation.
That's a reasonable concession, Ranty.
What's that? Sorry.
Basically,
you weren't
what
even
he's
listening.
saying is, hold on, Anthony, hold on. He's saying, right or wrong, the evidence that he's supplied does support his position, regardless of if it's correct or incorrect. And that's all he's asking you to credit him with.
Right, but I'm also saying that the evidence is
so
incorrect,
can we credit
it's
Issa with that,
inconclusive, and it
please?
doesn't work.
Yeah,
Right, hang on.
notwithstanding
Can we credit
that it's
Issa with that?
inconclusive, has he cited evidence that supported his position, regardless of its validity overall?
Fuck that. It's fucking valid.
Yeah, notwithstanding its validity.
I know. I'm just being a jerk. I got it. I've taken so much shit over this issue, and trust me, people have not gotten this wording correctly.
Issa, this is the minute to be quiet. This is the minute to be quiet.
No, it's not.
It is. Ranty, do
Why?
you at
Because
least credit, even if he's wrong, that Issa has presented evidence that does support his position?
Not wrong.
he's
Issa,
wrong.
come on.
No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to credit him.
I
for
don't know
providing
because I haven't.
evidence.
Listen, at the end of the day, I've not properly looked through the evidence. What I've seen is different to what you've seen. I've seen that they've quoted 100 square miles with 100 boxes right above it, exactly as I would see it.
Look,
in a miles.
The question I'm asking you, I'm not asking you. It's not a question that's
No,
going to mean
I
that you're
don't agree
wrong.
with it. I don't agree with it.
Listen, it's not about whether you agree.
I
right
don't
or
agree
wrong.
that he's produced. I don't agree.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking you to agree that the evidence that he's presented supports his interpretation.
No, I don't agree with it.
I'm not asking that you agree with it. I'm asking you agree that he's presented evidence that supports his version of events. If you can't do that, that isn't intellectually honest.
Wait a minute. No, he hasn't produced any evidence that supports his assumption.
He has.
In my opinion, no, he's read it wrong. You've read it wrong. You've both been reading it wrong.
No. Look, I'll put it back on screen again.
I want to share my screen, if that's all right, and I just want to.
No, it's not all right. I'll be honest. I want you to credit Issa
with
presenting evidence that supports his version. If you can't do that, Ranty, you're not being intellectually honest.
Hang on, wait a minute. You've just agreed with him that he's in the correct, and I'm going to prove to you by a simple process of just doing 2 straight lines.
Not yet, you're not.
How you are all wrong.
Not yet, you're not. I wanted to concede that Issa presented evidence that supported his version of events, regardless of whether he's right or not.
You know why people get
Can
annoyed
you do that?
No, this is why the ballers get annoyed with you. Because
Really?
because at the end of the day, when they have a disagreement and they know that what they are reading is in their mind correct, like I am right now, I'm reading it different to what you are. But you won't go to the final point and get it resolved right now. Within 2 minutes, I could resolve it with you.
It's
right
not about whether or not it's right or wrong. It's about has he presented evidence to support his position or not. You're not listening.
Within the argument.
Ranty, you're not listening. No, we're not moving it on. I want you to agree that he's presented evidence that supports his interpretation.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you like the show, maybe subscribe or hit the bell notification icon. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Said he's presented evidence.